Howdy, y'all. My name's Scott. I'm the author of Rivet Stone, and I may be just some author, but let me tell you, actually, here, come close. Similes, man. If you're going to use them, please at least make them interesting, different. I take bad similes over, her eyes were like the sun, or she was as gorgeous as like an angel, or something like. At least be original. Similes are literally used to take something from outside the scene to make a description more vivid, more interesting, right? So if you're doing something that's fairly mundane, or even something that's not like something that like people have seen, like what, like like I guess an angel, yeah, cool, man. Like, that really cooked back in sixth grade. But do you got anything else? Like, if you are going to use similes, you want to keep a couple of things in mind. One, see if you can use characterization to use, that's actually in your similes, right? So if a character is saying a particular simile, whether it's like in dialogue or first person POV, whatever they're describing a thing like as should have relevance to like their age, their personality, literally the time period that they're in. Some person who would be like, oh yeah, they were like a battle axe versus, oh yeah, they were like a burnt out loser. Two completely different people and personalities and lifestyles are going to be saying that. Like, one is, honestly, I think my grandpa used to say she was like a battle axe, honestly. And the other one sounds like they're straight from Mean Girls, right? Like use the character to drive what they're actually saying. And that will at least give you some sort of novelty in what they're actually describing, so you don't have to be, her eyes were like two deep blue pools. Like, wow, man. Yeah, that one really cooked back in seventh grade. Congrats, man. Yeah, you're really get that glow up going. And honestly, if you're going to go out of your way to use a simile, I'd rather it be more interesting and frankly wrong. Like something that will at least make you go like, huh? Like make you turn it. If you said like, oh yeah, her eyes were like a car crash. Okay, I honestly don't really even know what that means. It is like like you can't look away from him. Like, is he cooking? Am I letting him cook, or is this just bad? It might just be bad, but at least it's interesting. Honestly, I mean, if you try to be like a little more like artistic, you'd be like, oh, her eyes were like a pastel masterpiece, which in a vacuum, honestly, sounds fairly suboptimal, but maybe it makes sense for the scene. Maybe it makes sense for the tone of your book. But if you are going to use them, please make them more interesting. But at the end of the day, you also have another opportunity. Just don't do it. Just don't. Have you considered the option of no? You've considered yes, but how about no? No's on the table, isn't it? Just don't use a simile. I think that's another thing. Like, if you want something to sound more vivid, more interesting, like a comparative thing, there is more than likely some smarter way that you can actually describe a particular characteristic, a scene, something that has, there are plenty of descriptors out there that are very visceral. There is something that makes you like, ugh, like curdle your, like, oh, her personality was curdled milk. Like you do something else, man. I don't. It might just be best to just cut the simile and see if the sentence still makes sense, but just using maybe a more sophisticated descriptor, or maybe recontextualizing the sentence, rearranging it a little bit. And maybe that'll allow you to actually use, just not use a simile. I don't think it's inherently wrong. I use it in one of my books. In fact, in the very first chapter of my second book, I actually described, said he had scars like tree bark. I mean, yeah, that was a simile, but it paints a quick picture. It's fairly unique. Maybe not a bad simile, but could you also just be like, instead of saying her eyes were like the sun, or her eyes were like dazzling pools of energy, you could just say like, her eyes changed me. Yeah, maybe. Something to think about. So hopefully that helped. Give it a like, give it a sub, and let's get published.